So today we're making a soup that I've kind of just came up with on my own. It's a little bit different from what you would expect. We're going to start by getting this pan over medium heat. It doesn't need to be crazy hot, but we do want to get it warm. And we want to start by getting roughly half a tablespoon of chili flakes just straight into that heat. I'm also going to add into it just some great value Italian seasoning. And we're doing this because it is going to add a little bit of flavor to it and give a little bit of strength to what we're working with. Also going to add just a couple of cracks of black pepper straight to this. Now this handle takes heat really easy, so I'm going to use a cloth and just move that around. And when it gets to where you can smell that, it's time to add the chicken. Alright, so into this I'm going to add just a frozen chicken thigh as it is. Skin and all, this is a bone-in chicken thigh. And we do want that bone in there because with the bone, it's going to add way more flavor to it in the long run. On top of that, I'm going to add just about a tablespoon of butter. And then I have a little cup here. And with all of that flavor in there, I'm going to add water. Not all the way up, but just about halfway up the pan you're working. Cover it, and then turn the heat not all the way low, but to about a medium low. If you're working on a numbered system, I go between a 2 and a 3. Just enough to make the water simmer, but not so much, not so low that it's not going to cook your meat through. Alright, so with the chicken in the water, there's actually not a whole ton of prep work to do. I've got 2 green onions. You can use scallions or whatever you like. I'm going to cut the tops off. I'm going to cut just a little bit of the tails off. These I have already rinsed, so they're good to go. But if you haven't rinsed them, you need to do that. I'm going to go ahead and cut the whites in pretty good sized chunks because the whites I'm actually going to put into my soup here in just a little bit. It's this other part, I actually got probably one more good cut that I can add into my soup. That's going to put some good flavor in there. This other part, we are just going to thinly chop. And this can be a nice garnish on our soup at the end. Now, you don't need this many green onions. I happen to like them quite a bit. So, that's what's going in there. Now, at the same point, if you have used most of an onion and you have like the bulb of an onion left, you can go ahead and throw that in your pot too, and that will make for a nice broth base. Now, the next thing we're going to need is probably, depending on your cabbage, I have Napa cabbage here because I happen to find that I like it better. Mostly in soups. And we're going to cut the leafy part off because it needs to go in way later than these do. These take quite a bit longer to cook. Now we're going to chop the tails. Missed one. There it goes. Those tails are going to be trash. Then we're going to split it down the middle. And cut it into, I mean, you can leave it in good sized pieces. And drop those directly into this bowl here. These are going to go into the same bowl, but they're going to go in a little bit later, and we'll wash them separately as well. We only have one more thing really to prep for our soup. We do have one other ingredient going in, but that will be towards the end. Hi, Timber. How are you? My cooking partner showed up. Sorry about that. We're just going to take, I have about half of a turkey kielbasa because that's what they had at the store. And it was cheap. And part of my goal is to cook decently healthy meals at as low a cost as I can. And this whole 2-pack of turkey sausage cost me $1. And so we're going to cut these into rounds. I go for about 1/4 of an inch. And you'll notice I changed cutting boards here. And that's because the plastic cutting board is a whole lot easier to clean meat residue out of than the wood one is. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this end bit in half. So it'll be roughly the same size as the rest of my meat. But with that, pretty much all of our prep is done. I'm going to go wash this cabbage off, and then we'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so I was wrong. There are 2 more ingredients going into this. Also, I have, if I can find the camera thing here, a pretty good sized chunk of garlic. I'm going to smash that. And then I'm not going to chop it very fine. I want it in pretty big pieces. It's not going to come out later, but I rather like the taste of garlic. If you don't like the taste of large chunks of garlic in your food, you can actually use just a food grater, and that will just shred directly into your soup at some point. Okay, at this point, my pasta water is boiling, but my chicken is nowhere near done. Still, we are going to add the thick parts of our green onion and the larger bits, those are the smaller bits, the larger bits of our cabbage into the soup, along with the garlic. And you may be thinking, why add the garlic so late? It's because I do want a little bit more pronouncement in the other flavors in this. We're going to mix that in. And we are going to add a little bit more liquid. We need our cabbage to be mostly covered. Give it a good shake to make sure there's enough water. And turn the heat up to bring it back up to a bubble. Cover it again. Wash the other half of our cabbage. And in a few minutes, we'll add our sausage about the same time that we start our noodles, as well as one other ingredient. So when your chicken is pretty close to, or well, really when it's all the way done, you're going to leave it in there for just a minute. You're going to add your water with the chicken still in it. And then I like to take out the bowl that I'm going to serve my soup in and place the chicken directly into said bowl. And let it cool for a few minutes because you are going to want to pick the bones out of that. Alright, with that there, we're going to add our sausage, which doesn't actually take all that long to cook because it's pre-cooked. The rest of our cabbage is also going to go in. And the last ingredient that I have for you today is just a few tail-on shrimp. Today I have the pre-cooked kind. Typically I like to get the uncooked frozen kind, but this is what the store had to offer, and that's part of what this is about. With that in there, you want to get that mixed down. And the sausage and shrimp is going to add more flavor to your soup. So we're just going to drop those right in there, covered. The next thing I want to talk about is your noodles. With this, you can actually choose whatever kind of noodle you want. And typically, I would tell you to salt your pasta water, but I'm using this flat rice noodle that I found that I just really enjoy. And I just take a good sized portion of it and drop it straight into my water. Now the cook time on these noodles is not very long. It's only 5 or 6 minutes. But if you were to be using, say, a more traditional pasta, then that just gives more time for your other stuff to kind of mingle into your broth. Take your spoon, stir to separate your noodles. Give you a good view of that. Just stir to separate your noodles. Set your timer for 5 minutes and walk away. By the time your pasta is done, your shrimp should be cooked through, your sausage should be cooked through, and you should have a pretty decent broth in here. So at this point, you've got your noodles going, your soup is pretty much done. You just need to debone your chicken. And it is as simple as just taking 2 forks and pulling it off the bone. Now, if you wait a little bit longer, you can do it with your fingers, but I haven't had lunch yet, and I'm impatient. And the good news is, it only takes a couple of minutes to get your chicken shredded. It doesn't have to look neat. I don't care what people tell you. If you want to, once it's off the bone, you can throw it onto your cutting board and chop it up. Truth be told, this is the way I do it. I do it this way for chicken and dumplings. I do it this way for any sort of chicken soup you can think of. And here's the thing, once you've pulled all the chicken off of this bone, you could, say, stick it in the oven, roast it for a while, and then make another soup out of it. I like to get as much of the chicken off of this as I can. And there you go. One picked chicken bone. I'm going to just throw it in that, give my hands a rinse really quick. Alright, at that point, your noodles should be done. We can just kind of go through here and shred this out a little bit. Before we, that was almost bad. Uncover this, turn the heat down quite a bit. It doesn't need to be on very hot at the moment. Everything is done cooking for the most part. Drain your noodles off camera, give them a shimmy shake, drop them right in there. Now I chose these wide flat noodles, mostly because they go really well in soup. And they're not crazy heavy. But we're going to stir that in. Give it just a little bit of a bubble, not a whole lot. And let all of that just take a minute to come together. Doesn't need to be in there for a minute, maybe 2 max. You don't want to get rid of too much of your broth, or it will start to get salty because of the chicken bouillon. If for some reason it is not salty enough for you, at this point you can add salt and pepper. I've been doing this recipe now for a week or so, and have done it enough times that I know that there's plenty of salt in this for me. It's also going to have a nice kick of heat to it, but not so much that it's going to overwhelm the rest of the dish. Now you're going to take your chicken, fold it right back into your soup, because there's way too much soup for one bowl in here. All right. The final step is just to take a pair of tongs. I like these silicone tongs. Grab a big chunk of it and put it into your bowl. Try to make sure to get some of everything. There we go. Before we add the broth in, I'm going to put a couple of these shrimps on here. They are a little overcooked, but having that tail on in there for so long has added so much flavor to this soup. Pour the broth in there. And apply your green onions. And there you have it. This is my new soup recipe that I have kind of fallen in love with. Doesn't really have a name yet. I'm working on it. Maybe if this video gets enough likes, in a few weeks I will do a more amped up version of it. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. I just want to take a second to say I'm sorry that it's taken so long for me to put out another video. Also, if you guys have either ingredients that you would like to see used in a video or dishes you would like to see me make, I will do that. I will use whatever ingredient you want, or I will take whatever recipe you have and try to make it in as cheap a way as possible. Anyways, thanks for sticking with me for this long. I hope you guys have a great day. See you next time.